Hey there friends, what's up? Kevin here from the MSOTD Rocks YouTube channel, and today is another edition of the Kevin Figures Out series, and today I'm figuring out a band that is having a massive blow up year in 2021. No, it's not Spirit Box, I already covered them. This is Kevin Figures Out, Tetrarch. Before we get started though, please follow MSOTD Rocks on places like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You'll get these Song of the Day posts. You'll get to connect with us in so many different ways on there, asking us questions. We ask you questions, different IGTV videos every single Tuesday, live streams every single Wednesday night, the new Kevin's Crappy Flute series where I cover a great rock and metal song horribly on a recorder just for laughs because I know you guys like that, and see myself, looking silly. Please also remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel because you get all these great videos like the Kevin Figures Out series. You get the album reviews like the Nowhere Generation one from Rise Against and the Bodies one from AFI. Plenty others, plus the year-end awards. And also this is where the Chord Progression podcast lives on YouTube, also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Radio. We're interviewing all these upcoming emerging bands, even some of the heavy hitters in the scene as well, for you to get in the know with them in a much different way than you'd ever expect. Like sitting out, having a conversation with them, sitting on that couch, having a beer, having a great time. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but we have our very first sponsor for MSOTD Rocks and the Chord Progression podcast. What? With Phoenix Fitness. Now, I know a lot of us, we're begging to get back to concerts, live events, music festivals, whatever it might be. And we like rock and metal. We like to jump into mosh pits and go crazy, but over the past year, we've been missing that, and maybe our bodies just aren't necessarily in tune with that all. Honestly, you might have, lacked a little bit in the physical fitness department. Or if you're in it and you're looking for some new kind of supplements to really get going in terms of get your pre-workout, your BCAA Blazing, your protein powder, multivitamins, whatever it is to help your nutrition and help your fitness journey, Phoenix Fitness is going to be the place to go, and we have partnered with them. They've got all these different products in terms of, again, protein powder, BCAA recovery, different pre-workouts, stuff that's going to make sure that when you go to these concerts, you're physically fit in order to go to a festival, be there for like 3 or 4 days, and still leave in peak condition. You can use the code MSOTDROCKS to get MSOTD to get 15% off of your entire order at fnx.com. Link in the description below, the code's in the description below as well. Please do that because it helps me out, helps them out. It's a win-win. Let's go. So wow! I picked Tetrarch as the subject of this Kevin Figures Out video, and there are two major reasons. One is, in 2021, the band released their second album, Unstable, and it has been doing incredibly well in terms of growing the band's overall listenership, been played a lot on radio, especially SiriusXM Octane, and they recently announced that they're going to be in support on a tour supporting Crown the Empire and Atreyu, which just released their latest album right before this. And I was looking, I'm like, maybe I'm going to get to go and see this. I looked at dates, I'm like, I might go to Minneapolis on the 4th of December because I went to school up there, get to see some friends over the weekend. Or I might go to the show just outside of Rockford, Illinois on December 3rd because that's right by me. Or I might go to the one in Joliet, Illinois on my birthday, December 2nd. It's all going to depend on money at this point and maybe how this video turns out, so we'll see what happens. But there's another reason why I picked this band to figure out, and I knew a little bit of their music in 2020 and actually reached out to them to be on the Chord Progression podcast. Now, this was right when we were starting to get some bigger bands in the podcast like Blacktop Mojo, Wake It Last, Throw the Fight, Kill the Lights, Saul, Thunder Mother, that kind of group. So I reached out to Tetrarch, asked them if they wanted to be on the podcast, and Diamond was actually the one that responded and said, yeah, let's do it, set up with our manager, we'll be good to go. Perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable. I'm like, hell yeah, let's do this. Then that's where things took a turn for the worse because their management asked what my viewership was like. Of course, I totally understand that. And I gave them the honest answer, and they said, instead of a few hundred per episode on all platforms, come back when you have a few thousand. I kind of use it as bulletin board material, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to come back and be like, hey, take a look at this now let's make this happen. To be clear though, I have no ill will towards the band whatsoever because of this. I'm actually, a little bit more interested in doing this because the band responded personally and said they would like to do it, but it was the management that kind of nixed the idea right now. And hopefully after this video, we're like, you know what? Let's just make it happen. I still would love to have them on the podcast, but let's actually figure out what they have going on in this video. You know how the rundown is. First, I'm gonna take a look at their 2 full-length albums and really go in deep with their sound and figure if I like it or not. Then I'm gonna take a look at their image, or how they present themselves, what their music videos are like, what their live shows like, to really get a taste of that. And then of course, look at their connection to the fans because I haven't seen them live, because I've been able to monitor kind of what they've been doing personally with the fans over the past year and a half due to the coronavirus pandemic. I'm gonna be taking a look at social media, and then we're gonna compile all 3 of those into one final verdict. Let's do this. So looking at the music, the band released 3 EPs and 2 full-length albums. Now on Spotify, if you look, there's only the 2 full-length albums, so that's what we're gonna focus on. let me grab these because we gotta listen to some of this music. Let's talk Tetrarch's music. So their first album, Freak, came out in 2017, and I was really trying to get a taste of their sound, what it was like. It really had this feel of metal mixed with some new metal tendencies, some metalcore tendencies. So it really had more of this like full-on new metalcore feel with a lot of throwbacks to some of the classic heavy metal stuff. So if you like really anything in metal, there's gonna be something that Tetrarch puts in their music that's gonna be for you. Now let's take a look at some specifics of maybe what I like, what I dislike, and then we'll see where this album comes in. So what were some of the positives on this album? The first one I really saw was how they mixed those influences of metal, new metal, and metalcore all in there, because with a more consistent base on those classic heavy metal tropes, but bringing a lot more of the new metal, some of those more modern metalcore tropes in there, we get a little bit more of a dynamic sound, a little more of a dynamic feel to a lot of these songs that really gave Tetrarch this already core sound that not really many other people are doing in rock and metal today. So this really makes them stand out, and the quality behind it on some of these songs is really there. So let's start out with Freak, because it reminded me kind of like if you took new metal and mixed Marilyn Manson on top of it. Let me explain. The heavier focus on some more of the new metal drive with the electronic distortion that comes over the guitars here really gives it more of this modern pace drive feel to it. So it's a little bit more updated, but still that new metal and also Manson kind of feel from the 90s. But the vocal pattern, especially in the chorus and pre-chorus, had this Manson vibe that really gave the song quite this dynamic tension and feel. So the mix was really well done there. Also, Oddity is another track that really shows this. Picked up the pace with some of the rapid double kicks and the rougher guitar to give the intro and more of a metalcore feel, and the rest of the song more of a metalcore feel. And the bursting transitions really do prove this out well. But the faster, lighter vocals mixing with the unique, unclean feels of that metalcore kind of reminds you of like 2008-2010 Escape the Fate here. So they're really blending some cool things in with their music. The other thing I liked about the Freak album is Diamond's guitar work, and the reason I like this is because whatever the song needed, whatever the song called for, it especially contrasting with some of these more lighter tones and lighter sounds, Diamond was really able to pull it out, really put this sound in there, and really maximize a lot of songs. Honestly, her guitar work was a consistent positive on every single song in Freak. But we gotta look at some examples. Starting out with Pull the Trigger, the higher guitar pitch works so well in contrast to the wildly fast-paced bursting drums in the intro and the chorus, but it also gives a heavier sound in the verse with more of a heavier tone. This creates this more dynamic new metalcore feel from front to back on this song that, again, this is really where the band shines. You're already seeing this core sound play out right here. Also take a look at Break the Trend, because the intro had this high pitch to me like Jimi Hendrix Star Spangled Banner kind of vibe, which really threw me off. I was like, what the heck am I actually getting myself into? But it was all worth it. And that's because in the intro, it sets up so well to get us in the heavier style in the following verses. But there are these guitar sweeps in the pre-chorus that just stand out so well. We're getting this great dynamic feel, and we're seeing this technical prowess from Diamond here that is absolutely incredible to really bring out these songs. Again, the guitar work is such a consistent high point on this album that you cannot overstate it. So what wasn't I the biggest fan of on Freak? And one thing is the vocal mix, especially the songs that had more of that Manson vibe to them, especially in the vocal patterns. And it's all the way that they were mixed in, because sometimes they kind of got blended in too much and they just really kind of didn't bring out the song fully. Take a look at Spit, because the vocals are remaining gritty with more of that Manson tone throughout the whole thing, and the chorus, it just gets way too blended in. It kind of just felt like, you know, this long run-on song where they're constantly building on something, but the chorus just doesn't necessarily feel like a chorus. It feels more like a pre-chorus with the way the vocals are blended so much into the style of the verses. And then Please Let Me, the clean melodic vocals over the more kind of butt rock new metal mix, again, is a smart move. I'm not gonna lie, it really fits in here. But the blend is too close to the verse in terms of tone. Again, similar to what we saw in Spit. So it was when they really used the same tone and really kind of blended it in from verse to chorus, these songs really failed to stand out in my opinion. The other thing I really liked was the final song, Torn Apart, because being at the end of the album and having this more lighter ballady feel, it felt like it was just kind of thrown in on the album, and it really didn't fit the rest of the overall feel. Again, I do understand putting in songs that have a little bit of a different tone, different style, different theme in them on an album, so it does work, but it did feel forced on full album run through when you got this one that kind of ended the whole entire album. In the middle, it could have worked, or if this would have been just like a one-off single, this could have been really powerful, but just kind of on the album the way it was, I really wasn't the biggest fan. So overall on Freak though, yeah, there are some things that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but the consistency that I saw with the fact that Tetrarch knows their core sound, they know their influences, and they know how to blend everything together to create something powerful, and the fact that Diamond's guitar work is a consistently fantastic piece on every single song, this album shows a lot of promise going into 2021 with Unstable, so I'm very curious to see how this turns out. Now into 2021, we have the album Unstable, which came out in April of 2021. And again, I was hoping that they would maximize on their core sound, maximize on Diamond's incredible guitar work, and then fix some of the vocal blends that they had that I thought were a little bit of the problems on Freak. And to say that I got what I wanted, kind of didn't understand. I really got what I wanted out of this one. So what do I mean that I got what I want out of this? Take a look at the guitar tone, because again, Diamond is consistently maximizing the quality of these songs and the impact of these songs with the different guitar tones that she uses and the technical prowess that she has with that guitar in her hands. It's something, again, that is a consistent force through all their music that makes her basically the staple of the whole entire band. Without that, Tetrarch isn't necessarily as powerful. Let's take a look at some examples to prove this. Let's start out with I'm Not Right, because the intro rougher sounding guitar works well with the Manson style of vocals on the song to set us up, but the lighter volume mix on the flowing part of the intro that goes into the chorus, pre-chorus and the chorus sound, just works so great in contrast with the slightly slower pace of the song. We're getting this more dynamic feel with I'm Not Right. And then take a look at Negative Noise, because the higher distortion on the guitar starts out with this more kind of Judas Priest vibe, which I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I'm wondering why they're going with this. But then the rest of it is able to take this and give it kind of a Slipknot inspired feel. And I'm like, yikes, the guitar tone transitions into this perfectly. This construction is fantastic, and that guitar tone is also a great driver of this. I mean, those are the first two songs on the frickin' album, and they just stand out incredibly. What? Another thing we saw on Freak was the fact that the construction quality of these songs was rather incredibly well done in terms of really maximizing on that metalcore, new metal, heavy metal classic style that they end up contriving together and end up creating their own core sound. And they just kept this rolling in this album. Take a look at the titular song Unstable, because we do get more of that new metal Manson feel once again here, but the drop on the instrumentals backing into more of the verses with the Manson chant vocals, letting it shine again with the higher pitch backing behind it. It just really creates this incredible vibe that really just flows on forward. And then the chorus keeps the same feel, but more of this electronic overlay and more consistent backing. But this flow of this song, it just works so well overall. It's an easy transition from one part to the next. It's very well done. The construction is incredible on this. Also take a look at Sick of You, because the intro kind of reminds me of like a feel of like Karate by Baby Metal, which really kind of threw me off. I'm like, I can't believe they're putting something like this in there. But then we get more of this melodic chug with the new metal rap style vocals over as we get into the verses, and it creates more of this dynamic flow to the song that kind of closes on a higher pitched, clean, scratchy vocal in the chorus with the high distortion guitar over it. And it's just, again, everything feels so natural from that intro to verse to chorus. These constructions are fantastic. One thing I like about this album is the fact that they really created some songs that had these great catchy hooks to them, especially in the choruses. And when it comes to this band really breaking out in 2021, I can see why with this album and why places like Sirius XM Octane and other radio stations are really putting them out there. Take a look at You Never Listen, because the chorus has more of this melodic pace to it, but the fuller feel compared to the verses, playing more of these less rough guitars and these cleaner, more impactful vocals, really creates this powerful, incredible hooky chorus. Because, again, no wonder why this is the second most listened to song on the album. And it's probably going to end up being the most listened to one after all. I mean, I think Octane might have this one on the Big Guns Countdown at the end of the year. Also take a look at Pushdown, because the chorus has this faster paced, dry feel to it with some less rough guitars compared to the verses, but the vocals having a rougher, cleaner chant behind them really create more of this impactful feel that makes the chorus really hook and stand out, especially with those more chanting, impactful vocals. It just really brings you in and just really sticks it. Kind of like what they did with Systematic by While She Sleeps. Kind of that impactful sound on the chorus, that's what they did here. But there's got to be something I didn't care for on Unstable, and there were just two songs here I felt like they played it a little too safe. They kept having this more dynamic sound, which was really working for them, and I think on two songs, they're really kind of like, well, we're going to play it a little bit safe here, and that's kind of where I'm like, I'm pulling back just a little bit on this album. Take a look at the songs, take a look at Stitch Me Up, and the reason is because the rough intro leads into more consistent, heavier chugging, more, butt rock kind of sound. And the overall consistent chug throughout the whole song kind of feels bland, especially when you have the great high distortion guitars really overlaying it. It feels like a missed opportunity. Then Trust Me is another one of these, and the reason behind that is because the creepier electronic distortion song creates this potential left turn to really be impactful. I was really waiting for something insane to happen, but the heavy consistent hit on the crash cymbal in the verses is such an overpowering piece that it really takes you out of that whole entire vibe of the song. So that's really what I didn't like. But overall though, when it came to this album, I can easily see why this is really getting a lot of praise, because Tetrarch took what they did really well in Freak, doubled down it, especially with Diamond's guitar work and the way they constructed a lot of these songs to maximize everyone's potential, from vocals to bass to guitar to rhythm guitar to drums, to really lift this album up. There are a couple points where I thought they were a little bit bland and played a little bit too safe, but the quality construction of the songs are still there. So I can easily see why Unstable is on a lot of people's radar for the end of the year in 2021 for year-end awards for Best Album of the Year. It might be on mine. We'll see what happens. But overall, when I take a look at Tetrarch's music, am I going to like it? I've listened to 2 albums. I want to keep listening to them, and I want to go and see them live because of these 2 albums. I love this mix of this metalcore, new metal, heavy metal sound they have. Diamond's guitar work is really well done. So the fact of the matter is, yeah, I like this. This is really, really good. So next is going with the image and the gimmick, the band, if there's any kind of gimmick that's attached to it. Again, gimmick not being a bad thing, just being a thing that kind of stands out a little bit more than the rest, that you use kind of influence your music or influence your marketing, whatever it might be. And taking a look at Tetrarch with the way they look with images and their pictures, I mean, you can tell that they clearly have this more metal aesthetic to them. You take a look at the clothes, consistently wearing darker clothes, and the tones of the styles of the photos are rather darker as well to kind of give off more of that heavier vibe. But you take a look at each member and they all kind of have something that they're doing that really stands out with more of the rock and metal style. Take a look at Josh, the lead singer. When I took a look at their picture on Facebook, their profile picture, take a look at his haircut, it kind of reminded me of Chad Gray of Mudvayne and Hell Yeah. And when you're connecting those two, you're going to get that feel of a much heavier vocalist that's going to be able to have a good amount of range, which Josh has, so it makes sense. Taking a look at Ruben, the drummer, he has the long hair, and I'm thinking, man, this looks like a drummer for a metal band or a rock band, so you're really fitting the mold here. And then take a look at Ryan, because he reminds me a lot of my friend William, the bassist from Modern Day Escape. Cleaner haircut, but still looks like he can just absolutely smack it on the bass. And again, it's really being put out here. Taking a look at Diamond, she's always rotating the shirts that she's wearing with different rock and metal bands. I've seen Ghost, I've seen her wear a Godsmack shirt, I've seen her wear Slipknot shirts as well. So it's constantly kind of something cool where she's showing her influences just up front, and we're seeing that in the music as well. So their image really does stand out in terms of this is definitely a rock and metal band that you can really get into off of this. And when it comes to Tetrarch, I have to bring this up because it does a lot to really open up the rock and metal world to a lot more people as well, and that's Diamond. And the reason I bring this up is because Diamond is an African-American woman. And when it comes to rock and metal bands, you rarely ever see a woman as a lead guitarist. Let that be, you almost never see an African-American woman as a lead guitarist. But seeing Diamond up there as a lead guitarist brings forward 2 things. One, it absolutely stands on merit that Diamond is an incredible guitarist. Again, when I went through the music up front first, you can tell that she has this incredible style to herself, which really works well with the Tetrarch new metal, metalcore, heavy metal style, and her parts are consistently the best parts in a lot of these songs. But it also shatters a lot of different stereotypes that a lot of rock and metal fans might still be holding on to. It opens up the door for a lot more people to come into the genres as well. But remember, when I'm talking about Diamond as a guitarist, this is all based on merit. And she kicks some motherfucking ass, so yeah, she belongs there. Now it's time to go to the music videos, and when I watched the music videos from Tetrarch, what I got was something that was rather consistent with a lot of rock and metal bands as well. And when you take a look at the style of them, they're usually in this setting that's a little bit darker, dingier, creepier. Again, really bring forward that metal vibe that has a little bit more dark feel to it. The tones on the video in terms of the color schemes are a lot darker. We're seeing the dark clothes really come out from the band members. And again, Diamond consistently transitioning between these different rock and metal band shirts in these videos. Again, it's always kind of like a little bit of an Easter egg to have in there. I watch videos for Freak, I'm Not Right, Negative Noise, and You Never Listen, and this really does bring this up here. And even when they include some a little bit of story mode in there and kind of just a little bit more like, you know, like the full music video kind of style, again, the tones are really consistent with rock and metal. So does this make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's not the most dynamic thing compared to like maybe what some other bands have done in the past. It's not like this, you know, totally unusual style. But there is a little bit of an Easter egg. They're always seeing what kind of band shirt Diamond's going to end up being sporting on these videos. So it's It's always going to kind of bring you into the video right away and be like, huh, wonder what band she's going to be supporting this time. It's a draw. It's a draw. And then I went online to watch some of their live performances because, of course, haven't had a concert since 2020. And I probably won't be able to get a chance to see them until December of 2021. So taking a look at some of the live settings, I saw something rather consistent from them where they were kind of just up there, really playing their songs, really getting into it, but we didn't see much dynamic movement from it. And I think this for a couple of reasons. One is because a lot of times I saw them, they were on smaller stages, so you're really not going to get a lot of movement. Plus, Josh is also a rhythm guitarist as well, so as a frontman, he's not going to be moving around doing a lot of these constant crazy reacting because he also has to take part in playing that guitar, and you can't really stray super duper far away. And don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily mind when bands do something like this because it can create a great crowd experience if they're really bringing the energy and their music can really create that crowd experience. And did it? Well, when I watched those videos, yeah, the crowd was really getting into it. People are crowd surfing, people are moshing, people are really diving deep into it. So I looked at it and I thought, you know what? I can really get behind this as long as they're really creating the energy for the fans, which they clearly are. And I'm very curious to see what they do on a much larger stage when they're opening for bands like Crown the Empire and Tree. So when I come to the image and the gimmick, is this something I can easily get behind? And the answer is yeah. When it comes to their overall image, they definitely feel like a new metalcore band with their own style as well. When you take a look at the live videos, I mean, they have this energy behind them in terms of that they're able to bring to the fans, really create more of this mosh pit style, more of this crowd style, again, the crazier crowd style. And when you watch the live videos, you're going to get the feel of that heavy metal style with the darker tones on the colors. You're going to get the dingier atmosphere. It really makes sense, and it just really sits out with the vibe that they're putting out with their sound. So it does make sense. I got to give them a win on this. Now, when it comes to the community of fans, one thing I always look at is how the band connects with their fans on social media. Taking a look at the band's Facebook page, about 22,000 followers, maybe almost 23 at this point. When it comes to Twitter, they got 3.8 thousand. When it comes to Instagram, they got about 26, maybe 27 by the time this video ends up airing. And what I always take a look at is when I take a look at the band's pages is, are they going to offer unique experiences? So I'm going to want to follow all three and I can really get a better taste of what's going on with the band from that aspect. And the answer here is, yeah, Tetrarch actually does a pretty good job of this. Taking a look at Facebook, they have a lot more of these multimedia posts, a lot more posts about, okay, here's a video, here's an interview, kind of something like that, to really bring more of this feel towards, you know, adding something, directing you to something else. But it does make a lot of sense because Facebook is kind of the mothership in all this. When it comes to Twitter, their Twitter was constantly filled with a lot of retweets from fans, from other places that are putting out stuff, and some tweets of their own as well. So we're getting a lot more engagement here on Twitter. And on Instagram, we're getting a lot more fun pics as well. We're getting a lot more of these more relaxed kind of feel, but they're also really providing promos for the band as well. But the real question is, what's going on with the interaction here? Because when I took a look at the band's page, there was really no interaction from the band on other comments on Facebook. When it came to Twitter, they did respond very few tweets as well on the tweets and replies, but they did do a lot of retweeting. This is kind of what I saw with Era as well when I did the Kevin Figures Out Era video. And when it comes to Instagram, I really didn't see any kind of commenting from the band's page on the comments they got on there. So I'm like, they're really kind of lacking engagement in this department. But. Let's take a look at the band's personal Instagrams to really see if this is the case, because this might be a little bit different. And when it came to the band's personals, I took a look at one post. I only need to look at one post. It was on Diamond's Instagram page. It was her and Josh doing a playthrough of I'm Not Right on Loudwire for the 1-year anniversary of the release of the single. And the comments that were on there were praise and different questions, some rather technical ones as well, as like what equipment was being used at the time. And Diamond was answering a lot of these comments and answering them in full. And I was really happy to see this because now I'm seeing the band get a little bit more of a personal side on their page as well. And then even on some of those comments on that post on Diamond, Josh even jumped in as well. So now we're seeing the fact that the band is going to interact, but they're going to interact more on their personal pages as well. But that also gives the feel of you're actually connecting with that specific member of the band. You're not connecting with, you know, maybe their social media manager. However, I do know they don't run their own social media, at least by the time that I connect them, because, hell, I reached out to Tetrarch and Diamond was the one that answered. So I'm like, okay, I can give a little bit of a leeway on the lack of connection when it comes to the band page because of that. But seeing what they do on their personals, really sets it out as you can connect with this band and you can feel like they're actually going to respond to you and actually really care. So when it comes to the social connection, the community of fans, hell, this is a win. All right, let's take a look at the 3. When it came to the music, I said yes to this one because Diamond's guitar work is really well done. It's consistently the topic of conversation. A lot of these songs, the construction behind a lot of these songs is really top notch, even from Freaking Unstable, and the vocal kind of construction really has improved from album to album, even though we only had 2. So the consistency that they have created with this core sound, this new metal, metalcore, heavy metal mix is there, so that's a win. When it comes to the image, they clearly show that they are a metal band, metal, new metal, metalcore, and they really showed out there. Plus, again, you got Diamond with the consistently transitioning band t-shirts, so you really see their influence on their sleeve. Their live performances, I kind of wish they were a little bit more energetic in terms of what the band could do on stage, but again, they are limited, especially with Josh playing rhythm guitar, but they do bring the energy to create a great crowd experience and will make you probably want to mosh like crazy when I end up going to see them in December of 2021. Yeah, I'm going to go see them after this, so that's a win there. When it came to community of fans, I like the fact that all 3 of their Facebook, Twitter, Instagram have a different feel to them. I wish the engagement was better, but on their personals, the engagement is incredible, so I have to give them a win there. They're 3 for 3 with yeses, so the overall verdict on does Kevin like Tetrarch? Yes, yes I do. Be sure to keep in tune for the 2021 year-end awards because Tetrarch might end on the top albums of the year list. There might be a song in the top 10 songs of the year list. Who knows when that comes out? And I feel like now the fact that we're almost 200 episodes into the Chord Progression podcast and we have sponsors, I have to reach out to their management again, reach out to Tetrarch again, because I'd love to have all 4 of you on the podcast. If you're watching this, members from Tetrarch, Ryan, Ruben, Diamond, Josh, thank you. And I'd love to talk to you on the Chord Progression podcast all about your music and all about how 2021 has been incredible. But enough with that. That's me for me today, guys. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Kevin. If you like this video, like, dislike, put in the comments what you think about it. My name's Kevin. Said it with the hat flip. Oh, I missed it almost. Hey, I kind of caught it. See? Oh, man, I completely missed it, but see ya.